I think that's an excellent question. In hundreds of patients, data now going back over 20 years, and well, this most recent study about a decade. Once they start eating this way, you will make yourself heart attack proof. Going back over proof. We know that if people are eating this way, they are not going to have a heart attack.
Esselstyn's food-based prescription puts him squarely against conventional wisdom, which says diet is only part of a heart-healthy lifestyle.
If a doctor were to say to me, look, heart disease is a foodborne disease. If you follow this diet, pretty strict diet, very restrictive, but in exchange, you're not going to have a heart attack. What would you say to that? You agree with that?
I would say that's an overstatement, an oversimplification and an overstatement of really what we're able to do, even though I know there are people who say it.
I was curious about the science behind Dr. Esselstyn's claims, so I dug up some of these peer-reviewed journals. They're small, just a handful of patients, but the results are pretty impressive. In one study here, patients on the Esselstyn diet and cholesterol-lowering medication had no heart attacks, had no coronary events of any sort after 5 years. And 3/4 of these patients actually saw their blockages get smaller.
You're not talking about just reducing your chance of heart disease. You're talking about potentially reversing heart disease.
Oh, absolutely.
The late wisdom is that once you develop these plaques, they're there. You're stuck with them. Try not to let them get worse. Is that faulty thinking?
I think it's absolutely faulty thinking.
Here's a picture Esselstyn likes to show of a heart patient with a blocked coronary artery. And here's that same patient after going on a plant-based diet. You see the way the blockage has almost disappeared? A year after her heart attack, Sharon Kint says she feels great. Check out those moves. A year ago, simply walking was enough to wear her out. With the diet, there's one question you have to ask. Can she keep it up?
I asked Sharon Kintz to meet me here in New York City. You know, cooking at home is one thing, but eating on the road, eating on the run, well, that's quite another. As the old saying goes, if her diet can make it here, it can make it anywhere. 46th and Broadway, please. Sharon, how are you? All right, so here's another restaurant.
Okay.
I'm gonna take some advice from you. You look at a menu like this.
Yeah.
Tell me what comes to your mind.
The majority on there, I'm not going to eat.
So you just focusing on salads?
No, not really. I could have the baby spinach leaves minus the chicken. I could have the peaches, the strawberries, forget the walnuts. And
is this a restaurant that you would?
Oh yeah.
Come in
if I was hungry, you bet.
You could get a meal here.
You bet I could.
Sharon, you think this diet's going to make you live longer?
Well, I hope so. I hope I get to see you retire.
I have a feeling you're going to have to live a very long time, which I hope you do.
I hope I do too.
Oh,
I think, well, you know what? If I don't live longer, I know I'm going to live more of a quality life.
Coming up, former President Bill Clinton opens up about his own bad heart and his brush with death. And he tells me he's now a vegan. That's right, a vegan. A survey by the American Heart Association found 40% of Americans believe their hearts are in great shape. The real number? Fewer than 1%. Former President Clinton can relate. He passed all his White House physicals. But just 4 years after leaving office, it took a quadruple bypass operation to save his life.
I was lucky I didn't die of a heart attack.
Former President Clinton, like too many people, was busy. And for years, he ignored warning signs from his heart. But in 2004, during an exhausting book tour, there was something different.
I had a real tightness in my chest when I was getting off the airplane, and it was the only time I'd had it unrelated to exercise.
We're here outside New York Presbyterian Hospital. In just a couple of hours, President Bill Clinton, former president, is scheduled to undergo surgery.
So I immediately went down to our local hospital, and they did a test. They said, you got real problems. They hustled me down to Columbia Presbyterian, and they confirmed the determination that I had serious blockage and needed the surgery.
The doctors immediately knew options were limited. The 58-year-old Clinton needed to have his chest opened, his heart stopped, and surgery performed.
There's no medical treatment for reversing the obstructions that have already formed in his blood vessels.
I got Hillary and Chelsea there, and all I remember is it was happening fast, and everybody who cared about me was scared, and I felt rather serene.
On Labor Day in 2004, Mr. Clinton had 4 blood vessels bypassed.
Starting this morning around 8 o'clock, he had a relatively routine quadruple bypass operation. We left the operating room around noon, and he is recovering normally.
Well, it hurt like the devil for about 3 weeks, and it hurt so much that I had a hard time even watching movies, much less reading. And then when I started again to exercise, and I forced myself out, I mean, like the first day, you know, tried to just walk a half a block one way or the other. I was really trying to push myself into doing the therapy. There was that period when you're just not sure you can come back.
Did you confront your mortality?
Oh yeah, but I lived with it. You know, when I was in elementary school, I was fascinated by cemeteries. And I used to walk in a cemetery in the little town where I was born, where my father and my grandparents are buried, now my mother buried. And I used to go visit them and read the headstones and see when people were buried there and when they lived and how long they lived. It was different for me. I grew up knowing that I couldn't live forever. I grew up knowing that people I loved would die because my father died before I was born. So I never had the fear, the terror of my own mortality.
How do you know that you're healthy now? I mean, first of all, would you call yourself healthy now?
Well, I think I'm healthier than I was. You know, I lost 20-something pounds, and I feel good, and I actually have, believe it or not, more energy. I seem to need, when I do sleep, I sleep better, but I seem to need less sleep to function at a reasonably high level than I did on the other day.
Really out of shape, though. I mean, you talked about the fact that you love to eat. I mean, this is.
But I know, you know, I like the stuff I eat. I like the vegetables, the fruits, the beans, the stuff I eat now. I like. I like it.
Do you call yourself a vegan now, then?
Well, I suppose I am if I don't eat dairy or meat or fish, you know.
So you've cut all that out. I mean, do you crave
The only thing, once in a while, literally in well over a year now, at Thanksgiving, I had one bite of turkey.
I mean, you're doing this for your health. Is that why you're doing it?
Absolutely.
Mr. President,
Hi, Sanjay.
how are you?
Great.
Last time we spoke a few weeks ago, you said you were going to be really strict on the diet. You were doing a pretty good job, you said.
Yeah, I'm being more strict now.
Are you?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, by the time I have my 65th birthday, I want to weigh what I did when I went home from law school in 1973.
Wow,
that's what I'm working.
That's a grand ambition. I like that.
So we'll
how
see
much
if
was that? Will you tell us?
I got down to 185.
All right.
Now I got down when Chelsea was married. I weighed about 192, which is what I weighed when I graduated from high school. Anything under 195 was my optimum weight my whole life. But in the summer of '73, we had a scorching hot summer, and I ran 3 miles a day at the hottest hour of the day, which I could do back then, in order to make the pounds go off. And it was the first time since I was 13 years old that I'd weighed 185 pounds. So I'm going to try one more time to make it.
And coming up, the pictures don't lie. I learn if my arteries are young or old.
Time to find out what fate has to offer me.